You ready?
Yeah.
Enough people to do that.
You wanna?
Yeah, no, I'm Tom Regnell, I'm president of Chevy Chase Land Company. Appreciate the opportunity to come back to you today. You may recall when we met last, and we did say we had met with all the relevant cluster groups surrounding the property, want to continue to work to be, a good neighbor, but at the same time, we feel that this particular area of the property is challenged. But we've taken your comments and from others and tried to adapt those to a modified design that we think will meet, hopefully will pass muster with the board. And but we're also heartened to see the overwhelming support from the greater Reston community, in the media that was very positive, and the recognition by the greater community that there really needed to be some changes here, because this really hasn't been modified since it was first built. Since ever. Yeah. Since ever. Yeah. Thank you. So I'll turn it over to John. John will walk us through we felt it'd be helpful to maybe slow it down and walk through kind of the existing conditions and then the modifications.
Sure. So I brought this sort of existing conditions so you can see what's out there, just as a reminder. I know we've all been out there. Definitely needs to be fixed, right? It's old concrete, lots of cracks. Landscaping is old and tired, and there are some dead trees that we do need to take out. When Tom and I first started talking about this, the initial conversation was, hey, we don't have a huge budget, can we put some chairs and tables out here? And that was sort of our original plan. And then as it evolved and we got excited about maybe doing a little bit more, that's sort of how it evolved into where we are now. And so definitely don't have unlimited budget, and we're trying to sort of figure out how to take what we have and sort of make it nicer, right? So to fix it up, and there are some maintenance issues that need to be taken care of here also. So instead of just fixing cracks and throwing some miscellaneous furniture, Tom's working to do it right. Okay, so just so you know, sort of our mindset when we started. So this is looking from the lakeside, and this is looking from the parking lot side. And I think I'll talk from the other one. So we're not doing a massive redo of this, right? We're really trying to essentially do three things. One is up here, we added the wood steps so that it's a lot easier and more convenient and feels better for folks to get down there, right? Because you can definitely get down there, but it's just not a good route. It's not convenient, it doesn't feel open and welcoming. And so really wanted to just open this up and provide wood steps. So that's what the wood steps are for convenience for the people to get down. And the same is true for right here. To get down to the water. If you've ever walked down there, you know that sort of walking down these steps on the sides, you're like, should I be down here? Can I go this way? And so we definitely want it to feel more welcoming and open. And same thing here, the wood steps, and not only for walking on, but you can sit on them and enjoy looking out the water. Right. So that's through sort of these two main outlets, and then this area right here. Are currently steps, and we thought it'd be nice to create some little cubby holes where people can sit and talk quietly, right, with their neighbors. And so that's what this. So we're going to fill in the steps here with the Ipe. Just wood decking. Wood decking in here, and that's what the seating area that was created here. So those are sort of the three main sort of structural changes that are happening. And then as a result of that, we're trying to freshen up the existing landscaping, and there are a couple of dead trees that we would like to take out. This one right here next to Red's. Actually, when we originally did this, it was February, so we weren't sure which was live and dead, but the one that's shown right here is alive and keeping. I was just out there for lunch yesterday, and I was like, this one needs to actually go. So we're going to need to change the plan for this tree right here. See, it's right pointing. This tree right here, right next to Capiasano, is essentially a dead tree. So we want to remove that one, and there's a tree over here that's also dead. we can see pictures of it as we go through the slides that we'd like to remove. Other than that, are we taking, and then in order to do this, we got to take this one down. I believe that's the only other tree we're taking down. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And big, and then these two little bushes up here. And we're replacing them with more than we're taking out. So, let's see, what did I miss? Any questions so far? I mean, this is a work session, so any questions on sort of any of this or what's out there now or any of those types of,
I just want on the,
before I get into the actual.
when you do the big steps down at the lower section
Yep.
there, there is an existing tree there. Is that one alive or dead?
This one?
Yeah,
I believe that one's live.
that was the one. Is there any way you can reconfigure the planter you've got and keep that tree? Still make that work? It looks like you're keeping the chunk of the planter, but maybe it's not enough to keep that tree. Is that why that's going?
It's typically when you have more than 50% of the root system disturbed, we call it dead. It may live, but that's standard arboricultural practice to not try to keep a tree when you remove that much of the root system. So we're planning to plant 8 trees, and I think 4 are being disturbed as part of the project. So there's definitely more going in than is coming out. And there's also a lot of deferred maintenance and replacement necessary for some of the trees that are in poor health being taken care of at the same time.
So, Margo, if you could help me sort of go back to the beginning and I'll sort of point and walk through the pictures up here. So, one of the questions Charlie had last time was about ADA access. Can you see okay, Neil, or do I move this?
Why don't you move it? Thank you.
Can we move this?
I can see behind.
So, this arrow shows the existing ADA access, which is not changing. We're not trying to change that at all, so that's going to remain. There's some rail here that we're actually replacing to make it compliant with ADA. But this just sort of shows you what's there. This is the tree I mentioned that needs to go, that's dead. And this is the other tree right here that's dead. So. If you go to the next slide, these just show you pictures of what's out there. And obviously some areas need some maintenance. The existing sign, just gives you a feel for what's out there. Clearly needs help. This one is one of the ones you want to remove right here. Is this the one? No, this is the one
on the right hand side. That's right.
We tried to. Isn't it this one that
we are keeping? Yeah, that one keeping.
Is this one that did?
Yeah, that's right. Stable. Yeah.
So when we first did it, we weren't sure if it was okay, but now when you go out there and look at it, it's clearly dead. For half of it's dead. So, and we're keeping the rest of them. Scroll down. This again shows you what's out there. A lot of the wood cladding, the idea was to sort of get it over some of this old tired concrete. And one of our, as we're thinking through this, a lot of the wood that we're adding, the wood steps, the wood cladding, the additional landscaping, we're hoping, to Richard's question earlier, hoping to have a cooling effect. And we are also adding additional trees. But as you can see from the plans, it's a small, tight space where we have limited ability to do, massive things. So what we did, this is the old plan, just for reference. If you scroll to the next, you see the plaza concept. So this is the current concept. We took the sort of concepts and ideas, and I'll walk through each one of these. To make sure I touch on it. Preserving the existing mature trees or providing additional shade trees where possible. So we did, I sort of talked through the ones we're removing and the ones we're replacing. And how many are we, what's the total, Mike?
We're removing 4 and we're putting back 8. So,
okay. So removing 4, putting back 8. With the current plan as shown today. ADA compliant options for the stair area and outdoor seating accessibility. So and we showed you this arrow, how it goes down. And we did remove chairs here so that a wheelchair could pull up to that space, and clearly you can hear a wheelchair can sit anywhere, so we hopefully addressed your concerns, Charlie. Reduce the recreational activities and furniture to further open the grass area for better circulation, less controlled use, and further encourage a more passive, interactive experience, which was this area. And this is now, we just sort of expanded and made the turf area a little more, a little bit bigger and rounded edges, just to make it a little more exciting. And just some chairs. So we removed all of that. Consider graphic options for the monument sign to eliminate the shopping bag. We had further discussions about that, and the Chevy Chase feels very strongly they'd like to keep the shopping bag. They spent a lot of time developing that, and so we really encourage you to.
And I think that was I think Leah was just a comment at the meeting, and I think it was.
Nice.
But isn't it a different bag?
Sorry? Excuse me?
As I looked at the pictures, it appears to be a, cord strap paper bag. Before it looked more like a plastic,
Yeah, I don't think we changed it.
okay. I was thinking it was a different bag than the original concept.
I think one person said, I like the sign, but, if the shopping bag would go, great, if not, no big deal. That was the comment.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time working on it, and we all like it, so.
One of the persons I remember saying that it looked like a stork bringing a baby. And now that is stuck, and so every time I look at it, I think it's a maternity sign. So I'll just throw that out there. But
Right.
I'm trying to get back to blue heron, with the stork.
Blue heron, shopping bag, kitschy. So, if we need to talk about that further, we can do that. And then minimize the site lighting and or utilize shields for the lighting in front of the area. So just the LED lights are downlighting by design, right? So they don't, the way they're designed now in today's technology, they don't use the shields that we used to use in order to control light. You can control it by the way the lights are designed, and it's downlighting. So it's just different than what we used to have to deal with.
On the lights that you guys are going to replace that one globe light
Yep.
that's right outside.
It's relamping, removing and relamping all the globes.
Okay, so they'll get the square fixture, all, so it
Exactly.
won't be shining in the red zone.
Exactly.
Exactly. And again, downlighting, so should be all new lights. And that was the last comment from your report here. And I think you all have the overall plan in front of you. I'll just put that back up. What else do I have here? I guess we could talk through the plan too, just so you are aware of what we're trying to do there. So you want to just walk through which.
Sure, absolutely. Right now, if you look at the existing conditions, we have some of these overgrown evergreen hedges. And the overall planting concept is really to take away some of those old overgrown shrubs and replace them with exciting and ornamental grasses, a little pop of color, just to really make it feel like a less formal space, and ultimately just give it a refresh. Every 10 to 15 years, landscaping needs to get refreshed, and I think this is our strategy for doing so here. We do have a combination of ornamental trees, colorful shrubs, really to soften the concrete walls and bring a little movement with the ornamental grasses in the space.
What are the red ones down closest to the water? The red.
Right here,
Those guys,
these are red buds, so a little splash of color, a shorter ornamental tree to give a little color and ultimately not block the views as much.
That would be the only one I'd have any concern about, because that area gets really hot in the summer. We're talking about shading, and whether you wanted something a little bit bigger there, that's the only comment I've had. That's going to get blasted with sun.
Down by the
Small concern, but just something to think about.
Sure. So, sort of just want to talk through it, sort of refresh everyone's memory about where we are, and then.
Okay, I think basically, I mean, I guess my concerns before were it was going a different direction. I didn't think anybody wanted to get neighbors and so on. And there were a lot of great ideas. There was becoming more of an entertainment center, which was going to be another noise concern, light concern, all this kind of stuff. So kind of, I appreciate what you all have done, that you've now made it basically, I mean, my interests are, from a design point of view, opening it up from the parking lot all the way down to the lake is a real plus, because you can't see the lake from the bus stop. You just can't see it. So I think that is a conceptual statement. That's a good thing. I think that what you've done now is you've just turned into a landscape plan. There's nothing objectionable, in my point of view, to this landscape plan. You know, I want to discuss like the size of a tree or something like that. But as you said, you're just kind of updating what's there. You're creating that little upper level a little bit larger so people can actually sit there and look at the lake. So I think you've done a lot in my mind. You know, a little tweak here or there, but I don't even have a tweak I could suggest at this point. This is, you're redoing the landscaping and adding some seating areas. And I don't see, you know, no harm, no foul kind of thing at this point. All the objections I previously had or concerns, you seem to have addressed. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions, whatever? Condemnations?
Well, I discussed earlier is the fire tables, and this, I don't know if you've noticed, they've gone with a new design that are enclosed and which are less of a safety concern with kids trying to
Oh, the
kids trying to roast each other.
The shield detect kind of.
I had a couple of questions. Just looking at the two designs, and it's really, because maybe I'm not as familiar. Go back to
Sure.
the current, the revised. And this is just curiosity, the area around the bike rack that had changed from one to the other, and I didn't know what you had on there.
There on the bike rack. This area right here is the current configuration of the pathway that brings you down from the plaza down to the water. We just didn't show it on the previous version. So there's no change there. We're just giving you more comprehensive information of the existing conditions.
I just want to understand that. And then, just also, previously it was called amphitheater wood steps, now it's called tiered wood seating.
Yes.
Is there a distinction there that I'm missing?
We could look at the pictures. I think amphitheater wood steps brings a negative connotation to it, or a different connotation. It's really wood seating that can be used for a variety of purposes. It has a great look. There's a great boardwalk they just did down at the wharf, made of similar materials. We think the wood cladding really warms up the space and provides other seating opportunities, and ultimately opens up the views to the lake.
And frankly, the only reason it was called that initially was people were excited about it. And I think our CJ who wrote the note thought it was a cool thing to call it that. That's the whole thing.
I just want to understand that this was still, the blush wine is still rosé, isn't it? Is this the same, only the name has been changed to protect innocent, is that?
We didn't change.
The design's not changed.
That's all.
And our intent wasn't to create an amphitheater. It was just
I understand that created some concern. I just wanted to make sure that physically it was the same.
no change.
That's all the questions I have.
I mean, there's limited space down there anyway, so you can't do a whole lot.
So what is the green area that's in front of those
Turf.
steps? And what do you mean by turf? Is it?
AstroTurf.
Artificial turf.
So I kind of don't like artificial turf. That's just me. Maybe. Sorry, I have a hard time warming up to it.
Yeah, we were trying to soften the area.
Welcome to Ruston
Versus concrete.
We're using it on a lot of projects these days. It's
not
very,
common.
very popular. The technology has really made drastic leaps and bounds in terms of durability and friendliness from a fall perspective, things like that. It's not the same stuff that it was in the 70s.
The Brady Bunch's backyard.
Keeping in mind, we're trying to eliminate as much concrete surface as possible here, with a variety of materials, but at the same time, having real turf there with all that surrounding concrete is just going to get baked. That exposure.
This is a place for kids to.
I'm not excited about it. I hear everything you say, and I don't disagree with anything you say. I agree you've never maintained solid or quote real, unquote solid not as fake grass.
It's really, really nice.
And I know it's being used. And this is one of Reston's featured, village centers. And we have certain residents that want to do this in their front yards already. So anyway, we're going to be seeing more and more of it.
I think because of the commercial use of this site, it's not setting a precedent for residential stuff personally. I think this is a different situation. I appreciate trying to get rid of as much concrete as you can, just make it more user-friendly.
Isn't it kind of like on top of the concrete?
Or is it set in?
It's set above the concrete, just to limit the disturbance to the site.
Will there be any kind of curb around it that holds it down so people aren't like lifting it up?
Yes, there will be a curb and it'll be secured.
And what's the curb?
Curb is it's about a 12-inch wide rubber border. It's ADA compliant. It basically gaps bridges you up the edge.
You are going to go ahead with the chalkboard, which I think is a good idea. And I didn't know if others had.
We'd like to keep it.
Yeah.
We, if you've ever been to Charlottesville, there's a huge chalkboard in their central area, and there's all kinds of different things up there. It's really neat. There's art. There's kids writing. It's really a neat thing. And there's a lot of great people in the world. There are some bad people that maybe do bad things sometimes, but we don't run our lives based on what the bad people might do. And so if someone writes a foul word up there, you wipe it off. And a mom or a dad can wipe it off, right, if they don't want their kids to see something. So it's not like paint or something that you need to physically grind it off. And so we think it's a fun thing that kids and others are going to enjoy, and it's art, right? And so this is Reston, right? We promote art, and so this is a way for people to participate actively in providing art, and so we think it's fun.
The other kind of overarching thing here is it's not currently warm and inviting place to go spend time, and I think that it does not attract adults who would enjoy contemplative time as desired, and that bringing something that's more attractive to the adult community, I think, will serve as a deterrent for what's perceived as a problem with teens who come through the neighborhood. So I think if it's being used more by adults, it'll be a deterrent for potential bad behavior from kids coming through the area.
What is your maintenance plans for Halloween? Is the wicker furniture fastened down, or is it just free floating?
So we did bolt down the furniture up on the water.
Tables and those sort of things, yeah.
Yeah, just because it's so close. Up there, the plan wasn't to bolt it down, so you can.
I didn't know if it needed to be. I was just asking, because the cushions are going to get tossed around, and is somebody going to buy on occasion?
I think first we would look for furniture that has padding material affixed.
Oh, okay.
So that we don't have to.
You don't have to chase them in the lane.
Chase them.
Yeah, from a practical perspective.
And most of the upper plaza is not really movable. It just really would be that one, the one area that down by the lake for the furniture would be secured.
Okay.
And I should also add, prior to being involved in this exercise, although not yet installed, we are installing security cameras on the property, and there will be here on the plaza. So we will have records of events should they occur where that did not exist previously.
Only comments I have, I think it's great. I'm seeing North Point is doing the same thing to their plaza area, if you want to call it that. They put out outdoor seating, etc. It seems to be working so far. It's early, but it's nice. And far more attractive when I go there. I like the concept of security. I noted that our friends over at Lake Yan, when they posted the signs, that it is under video surveillance, just the sign alone. calm down a lot of activity just on the posting of the sign. So depending upon, you don't want those things to be terribly obtrusive from a design standpoint, but if people walking in can notice that it is under surveillance, that deters a lot of behavior right there, whether you're even doing it or not. The trees obviously are a concern to me. I understand what you need to do, especially with the dead trees, that's obvious. My only suggestion is do the best you can with the replacements, because I think it is a heat island down there, so future shade would be really welcome, I think, for a lot of folks. So those kinds of species would be my recommendation. I don't consider it a showstopper. Just saying, if you had the possibility, a good shade tree down the road would add a lot of value. Lighting, I like the concept of it going shielded down. Having friends on the lake and pulled up to the marina tying area, it is very dark at night, probably by design, to perhaps keep too many of those late night boaters pulling in there. But nonetheless, it is a lonely area, so a little bit of lighting down there. I don't know what the plan is, but I recognize neighbors are on both sides. But I think the darkness can be both an issue as well as, I think people appreciate the darkness, but I think a little bit of lighting down there. Having been a visitor myself, it's very unfriendly at night. And if this is going to be a valuable space, it'd be nice to see a little bit of lighting down there to allow even, elderly couples
Yeah,
to.
we have two globe lights that will be revamped, so I think that will really.
I'm talking about down by the marina.
Down at the dock.
Down at the dock.
Sorry.
It's lonely and dark down there, and probably by design for the neighbors, but shielded lighting would make it, it's a dark area that I think can attract interesting behavior, and having seen it down there. A little bit of lighting could benefit, I think. Something to think about, or even just bollards, but again, those are just my thoughts on the process. Overall, I think the landscaping, the concept, I think are going to add value to the plaza. I think it'll be great. And I think your tenants will appreciate it in time. And having talked to the teenagers that I know, and have a few in the family that attend the high school, they're basically shared whether you do this, leave it alone, or do something different, they're still coming. So that's not a design issue. It's just
Reality.
It's reality.
Yeah.
So it's. And I think that's just something the owners have to just, what you have to do. That's another issue outside of this conversation. But those are my thoughts.
Yeah, on the lighting down the dock area, it doesn't have to be pole lamps or anything. I'm thinking something really subtle, like on the side walls to your major big steps going down. You maybe have some recessed lights there that just kind of lit the steps or something without putting poles up somewhere. It might be
It's really, really dark down there.
less objectionable that way. At least if you're coming in and your yacht, you got some kind of lighting happening, but it doesn't have to be a bunch of pole lights.
Well,
it would be fun if those steps just kind of glowed.
Having tried to tie up my neighbors, my friend's boat there in the middle, we wanted to go to Reds, and it's very dark. It's even a little dangerous, coming off that.
It's creepy at very best, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So food for thought.
Okay. Yeah, we hadn't looked at that at all yet, so.
I do think though that with the new lighting, that anything is an improvement over what's there today. That those are basically just big bright spots in the sky, and they don't really provide any
I respect
illumination.
it. From that standpoint, absolutely agree. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, one area to think about.
Right.
And just to that thought.
And just
Yeah.
down there, I would consider doing something that's more subtle. It just kind of lights the surfaces a little bit.
Okay.
On the steps, that's going to be a main feature down there. It would be kind of fun if you're coming in a boat, or if you're coming down from the parking lot. It would just sort of glow. Wouldn't be as objectionable as having, a bunch of pole lights down there.
Because our intent was, we were going to go to Reds or Cafe Sana to get a takeout. So that's another path of customers coming to those two establishments to pick up some food.
What about
It is a very active lake.
Yes, it is.
What about a lighthouse beacon?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been thinking about that over on Lake Ann for our side of the house.
There you go.
We put one on the overflow, perhaps.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll talk about that between now and the next meeting. We'll see what we can do.
So I guess to summarize some of the comments we've got, the lighting that we're just talking about, look at the tree selection down by the water. Is it something larger than a redbud makes sense to you and grow faster? Some form of maple or landscape architect's not here today, but there are things like that that you want to get some shade quick and fast. Just a suggestion. And bolting down furniture, looking at the padding on the couches and stuff, so it doesn't start floating the first day it's there. And you resolve the thing with the fire pit thing. I think you pretty much answered all the questions that got raised before. I think the biggest one was the whole conceptual thing you guys changed, and that's just, it's a landscape refurbishing plan as opposed to a recreational area. And I think that was the DRB's primarily objections, and the neighbors as well, because the noise factor and so on. And I don't see any reason why this would necessarily create more noise than what's there now.
To Neil's point, one last thing I forgot, with regard to the turf, I'm fine either way, but would it be possible to look at wood planking there instead in a creative design
Just, you know,
to soften it?
I would hate for artificial grass, even really good artificial grass, to be something that starts happening everywhere else.
That was my only thought. Instead of that, to look at some creative use of wood planking to tie into the steps. I don't know if that's too much wood, but
Or suggestion would be when you come to the board meeting, bring a sample of what you're talking about. That might be helpful, so we have some idea.
Or it might not be helpful.
We get the best one you can. Just so we can actually see what it looks like. We might go, oh, that's great. You know, I like the idea of softening it somehow, getting rid of some concrete. That's
Well, we're also thinking here for, young kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of strollers go down there,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
it would be nice to have something other than concrete.
I guess I just go back to the shade tree comment from before. It's a really difficult area to work in general. I think now that it's become more of a updated landscaping plan and a little less of a total repurposing, that it exposes in a way that what you're working with out there is so difficult. And I think the big board steps help, but if you just, as an architect, if I sit here and look at the plan, I don't go, wow. You know, there's no wow out there. It's a bunch of isolated little stuff. What could turn it into a wow, still to me, could have been maybe a tree plan that didn't just even happen down at the water, but started up where those 3 purple round planters are, which is also a very barren area.
These are trees right here, these are redbuds as well.
So I think that helps. And, you know, if there's a redbud theme or a different species, I know redbuds are a little bit ephemeral, some spring color, you know, we've just seen them here recently, so they're all
nice.
fresh in my minds. Well, it really depends on the ones you get and how well they shape over time. They don't always turn out to be spectacular. And they do get to 30 feet over time. I mean, some of the original ones in our neighborhood are that way.
you're right.
They won't in this location, I don't think. Anyway, just making the point again that if there was this introduction now of a rhythm of redbuds or a rhythm of whatever, following this procession from the parking lot down to the shore, that might be the sort of thing that could tie all of this disparate bunch of stuff together and make it a little more perceivable as a nice place, and not just, again, a series of, okay, the upper part and then the seating part, and it's not very big. You said that early on yourself, and I think from a landscape design viewpoint, my opinion would be a little simpler, a little more cohesive, maybe good. So that's all I want to say. And I think you could have more canopy out there, and then you wouldn't feel like you had to use artificial grass because the canopy would be cooling down whatever was underneath of it.
Also, we have some concerns about most shopping centers tend to limb up all the trees that they can. So we have to be, I don't know.
That's those learner people. It's not
I
you.
don't know.
So the funny part is here, we actually would want to limb down because we're
Yeah.
trying to provide a view shed
Right.
to the
Right.
water.
No, I'm just saying, you run into that a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody lining up every.
So you can see the
parking lot.
buildings,
And
yeah.
you see the buildings, and then all of a sudden, there's this little lollipop kind of tree down there, so. Yeah, I'm with Neil on that. I mean, have it look a little more resting like with a tree or two here or there, the bigger the trees, the better, as far as I'm concerned. You've heard that, get repetitious.
Yeah, the one constricting factor here is just sort of size of these tree wells.
Right. I've seen over in DC, 40-inch oak trees growing up in a strip this way.
They get carried away. Look at the trees in DC on the side.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the sidewalks
Yeah,
are
sidewalks are-
splitting, you know.
Out at the bottom.
Well, then this would be in the lake.
Yeah, would be. That would, you know.
The problem with those is then you have a ADA safety hazard.
Understood.
Once they do that.
They could come back, make you understand where we're coming from.
Listen, we want a lot of trees too.
It's a beautiful area, and shade would just make it wonderful. And you can't do that overnight. But to Neil's point, yeah, that would really tie it in, so they're just giving me some ideas to think about. But overall, I think conceptually what you're trying to do, I get it. So,
What are you going to replace the newly considered dead over on the left?
I was thinking of maple.
Something that could become a,
Yeah.
because that seems to be a larger planter area
Yeah.
than some of the others.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that you now discovered is dead right
Yeah.
outside of Reds.
Yeah.
I was thinking of maple, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so you have, and the ones on the other side are fairly large, so you do have some shade trees there. This is a maple, I believe the ARs are red maples down here at the bottom. So, we are trying to incorporate some of those. And I hear you saying maybe one or two more bigger ones, is that?
My only thought is pick a species and go with it, so that it ties the whole experience together.
The only, so I've asked landscape architects about that before, and one of the comments I receive is that they want diversity, right? Because it's more natural to have things that are.
But we're not doing a whole landscape, we've got one little plaza here.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't hang together.
It's unlike me to ever disagree with Neil, of course, but
First time for everything.
I don't mind. I think that the red buds up top and the red buds at the bottom give you enough continuity. And if you have larger shade elements between here and there, or if a red bud can be big enough to provide the same shade as a maple, then okay. You know. Just placate Neil and me. Take a look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, what you've done, just to verbalize it, is we've turned this into removing some of the concrete planters and putting in the wood steps, and then re-landscaping what's there. And so it's a fairly simple approval, I think. And I'm not trying to make more of it than that. I mean, I am trying to make more of it than that, but you don't have to.
Understood.
Yeah.
Well, we want it to be nice, right? So appreciate the comments.
I think absolutely getting rid of those massive evergreen hedges and those planters, overgrown evergreen masses of plantings, junipers or whatever they are, and getting these steps in that open up this whole promenade down to the lake is, you know, that's the big move. I was trying to reinforce it a little more with the tree procession, but Richard's right, having some red buds at the top, some red buds at the bottom, that may be enough. So, good.
This is oriented east to west, like it's, in that photograph is east to the upper right and west is to
The west is the lake.
Yeah, west is the lake.
Yeah.
So it's gonna get a lot, it does get a lot of sunshine.
Yeah.
You know, the ones closer to Cafe Sano will be sort of shaded with the, I mean, on the north side a little bit, but it gets blasted with sun, so
Yeah. There'll be
that won't be a problem.
sunsets are gorgeous.
Yeah. Anybody has any other comments or thoughts? I think you guys have responded well to all the comments we made before. So I think, you know, you're gonna come back to us when, you know.
Does the public have an opportunity to speak?
Yeah, normally we don't get into that in workshops, but since we're going, rocketing along here, sure.
Well, I'm here primarily to talk about bike parking. I had sent a note to the DRB about it, and I hadn't really heard anything, although I understand I'm now an affected party because I did send a note. I live across the lake on the other side, and all of us who live around the lake use this area. We're really glad, I'm really glad to see that this is happening. I really like the plan. It's long overdue. I had wished maybe there was some more activity there, and even planned activities on weekends, like planned events or whatever. Because it is, that area is very dead. And the shopping center is, or the village center is, I mean, there aren't a lot of public activities there. But as far as the parking of the bike parking, there's been a dire need for better bike parking at that shopping center. And I've talked to, I think prior, at least one prior owner, maybe two prior owners about it. There is one rack at Starbucks, and it's an old-fashioned grill rack that was falling apart. There's one rack at Safeway that was put there after the last kind of redevelopment of the village center. There used to be a rack in front of the 360 Fitness, I think it's called, but that got moved during that redevelopment, and then so we asked for a rack, and so they plopped a rack on the side of Safeway in the mud. You know, it's a grill rack, not a grill rack, it's a wave rack. It's not recommended by the county, which the grill rack is not either. And so, you know, been working with the county. By the way, my name is Bruce Wright. I live on Collinsville, so we worked with the county to try to get better bike parking. And at one time, I developed a plan for some single U-racks kind of placed near the destinations. And that's where people are parking now. When I go to Safeway, I park up there, you know, where the walkway is, and there's a railing up against that railing. I don't use the side rack in part because Safeway puts their carts and other things there, and it's muddy and it's just a mess. So I'm really pleased to see this bike parking. I just think it may be in the wrong place. I think most people who enter on bike aren't coming along that trail along the lake. They're coming into the center either because there's now bike lanes on Twin Branches, there's going to be new bike facilities on South Lakes. So people are coming in, and people don't know where the bike lane is now, unless it's the one in front of Starbucks. And luckily that was, or fortunately that was remodeled or fixed into the ground better recently, so that was, they did a better job of that, although it's not very, very direct. So I'm wondering why you were putting the racks down there. Also like the idea of fix-it station, but I think that's a little bit of a hidden location. I don't think it would be used very much. I would prefer to see some individual U-racks placed, you know, one near Safeway, one kind of in the middle, and one on the other side. And you could take two bikes. You know, there aren't a lot of bikes that park there, but it would be a lot more convenient. So I guess wondering what the reason was.
Sure. Well, the reason it's here is just because this is the scope of the project, right? So we wanted to provide something.
Yeah.
We had talked, Tom and I had talked about doing some other racks in other parts of the center in the medium-term future. We just haven't gotten there yet. We want to sort of get through this and then do that. So that's the first time we've heard those comments.
Hadn't considered it yet, but we can.
Yeah.
That would be great. And you
Seems
know,
like
We would like to have more bikes to take the pressure off parking.
Sure. Yeah.
Someone
Because
that
it's-
drives, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those racks are really inexpensive. They're $150, maybe another 100 to install them, and they have a fairly small profile if there's two bikes parked parallel to each other. One other thing as far as bikes goes, you know, bike share is in Reston. It's in the north part of Reston. The county's putting it in the south part of Reston. I don't know if you've been approached about.
There's going to be
dedicating
one
space.
right next to Safeway. They're working on it right now.
Is that right?
It's a nice little muddy area there.
But it'll be a concrete pad. And
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Where is it, near that playground?
Right on the east side of Safeway.
Probably where the rack is right now.
Could be. I'm not sure.
It's on the South Lake side of
That'd be
Safeway,
east side.
up toward the road.
Up toward the road, right? If this is Safeway,
Yeah.
and that's north,
That's
it's
a
like
vacant
literally
space.
right next to it.
Yeah, good block.
But the county is working on that right
Okay,
now.
cool.
Our company happens to be designing it for the county, so that's why I'm so aware of it.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I can understand why it's there because of the scope of this project, but
Yeah.
my fear is that it may not get as much use because of its location. You know, you would need, in order to use it, if you're coming from the parking lot. You would need to, come down the ADA ramp, and, kids would be riding, or adults or whatever, so you're kind of mixing with the pedestrians and coming in. I just think it would be better if it were up higher.
Yeah, there's another trail at the back here that
Yes,
comes out.
it's connected to the trail system. so-
Yeah, almost no one rides on that trail. I rarely see people riding there. You maybe have a couple there, and maybe a couple of others.
Well, I think the nod to some sort of bike rack in this particular plan is okay. I think you've identified a problem we'd like to see more of in the whole center, but that's not, it's not what we're looking at right now, but interesting that they're gonna do the bike share. Did not know that, that's good.
But we'll look at it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware about the bike share, and, but I'd like to also go and look at what where existing racks are and what we can do.
If I could give you my contact information, I'd be glad to go out there if you're ever going to go out and take a look.
Sure.
Okay. Is there anyone else up against the wall here that would like to say anything while we're here?
I have a question. What happens to the bus stop?
I assume it just stays where it is.
Is there any shelter or anything there?
There's not now.
Right.
There's a bench.
I think the actual bus stop is up on the road, isn't it?
No,
No, it's-
the bus comes through. It should be on the road because those buses coming through.
Yeah, I don't think that's the official bus.
No, it is. It's
Is
a
it?
Fairfax Connector official stop.
Yeah.
Right on.
There's two in the shopping center, are not, one at Safeway and one at the, by the park area
Open
here.
that up more where they stand.
No. I think with everyone trying to open this up, I think a shelter of any kind would be a problem. If you walk 20 feet over to your right, you can be underneath the overhang of all the shops. If it was pouring down rain, wait till the buses come and then run out. But I think it would be contrary to where you're trying to go with this. We tried for a long time to get resident-type, in quotes, bus shelters, and we got slapped. There was only one place in Reston that's actually on RA property, and all the other 40-some bus stops are not on RA property. So they said, see you, go away.
We just use a stand.
So-
That's too bad.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'd be happy to comment on behalf of Lakeport. And I'll just say that, as we said earlier, there were a lot of elements of this that we thought were attractive, and it looks like we've kept those. And we're very pleased to see the new design, which does remove the recreational elements, which were the main concern about noise, and puts in a quieter place for people to sit and enjoy the lake. So we do appreciate the changes, and thank you for those. I do have one question. With the wooden steps that are going down, are they high rise, or will you have normal step type things? That was raised at the last meeting, and haven't seen the plans, so I don't know the safety issue about trying to go down the big steps. Does it, one of your pictures has little steps in between?
Yeah, we asked the last time if it's like, the big steps are like at a football stadium, but they need human-sized steps next to it, and you all said yes, they were there.
Right, it would be a combination that looks like
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
Fine, because you talked about walking down, and it's easier to walk down those. Just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify.
absolutely.
Maybe we can clarify that.
Yeah, if you would. Anybody else? Okay. All right, gentlemen, thank you all for coming. I think you got some very positive responses here, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you in June.
Good work.
Thank you.
I'm just saying.